Today what I wanted to do was introduce you to a player in the Philadelphia Flyers prospect organization. Alexei Kolosov is a goaltender whose name you may be a little bit familiar with, especially if you are a Flyers fan. He is a 22-year-old, 6 feet, 185-pound, left-handed catching goaltender who is already signed by the Philadelphia Flyers. He was initially drafted in the 3rd round, 78th overall by Philly in 2021, and his contract goes on till 2026. Now, the thing is, when it comes to Alexei Kolosov, he actually was a fairly decent prospect heading into the 2021 draft. This is because he was already playing in the top pro men's league in Belarus before he got drafted. Now, the thing is, this draft season that we're looking at, 2021, actually was his draft plus 1 year. He was an overager when he was selected by Philadelphia, but he had a .915 save percentage and a .223 goals against in 12 games for Dynamo Molodechno, and he was pretty good. He also suited up for Team Belarus in the World Championships. Unfortunately, his numbers there were not all too great, but he was still 18, 19 years old. There was a reason why Philadelphia took a chance on this guy, and as his career continued, he eventually played in the KHL, was pretty alright over there. In 2022-2023, playing for Dynamo Minsk, he had a .912 save percentage and a .225 goals against in 42 games, not to mention a .917 in 3 games in the playoffs. He was pretty good, all things considered, and a lot of people were starting to get on the hype train. Hey, this could be an underrated, under-the-radar pickup for Philadelphia. An extra goaltending prospect is always nice to have in your system. And even in this previous season, he played in the KHL, Dynamo Minsk. He had a .907 save percentage. His save percentage was worse than in prior years, but his goals against was actually better. His record was also a lot better, too. And he did have a cup of coffee with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms in the AHL. He had an .885 save percentage in 2 games played over there. His .925 save percentage for Dynamo Minsk in the playoffs was also a pretty big highlight in this season, pretty much signifying that Kolosov was growing, he was getting better, and there were reasons to be excited for him. But in this video, we are talking about how Kolosov might have just ghosted the Philadelphia Flyers. You know, it's common nowadays, especially in the 2024 dating scene. Either you meet up, you have some food, you get some drinks, and you're having a good time, and then by the time you get home, you never hear from them again. Or, before you even go on the date, right before everything goes down, you stop getting those message replies and you ask, hey, are we still on for tonight? Are we still good? It's okay if you have to cancel, but they don't get back to you, and you're all confused, and you're like, okay, wait, what happens now? So you don't decide to go, and eventually later in the night, they're viewing your stories and everything, and it's like, okay, what the hell's going on? So ghosting is common in today's world. It's disrespectful as all hell, yes, but it is common. But when it comes to NHL teams getting ghosted, it seems like we may be on the cusp of seeing that exact situation with Alexei Kolosov. Let's go on to an article published by Siobhan Nolan from the Hockey News earlier 3 days ago. This is on the Philadelphia Flyers version of the Hockey News, and it talks about the confusing offseason saga of Flyers Alexei Kolosov. Goaltender Kolosov has had a bumpy road in his journey from Dynamo Minsk in the KHL to the Philadelphia Flyers organization, and with recent reports coming out of Belarus, the plot only looks to be thickening. Included are some tweets posted by BelarusHockey.com. Alexei Kolosov was spotted today at the training session of Dynamo Minsk. Belarus Hockey then follows up saying that Alexei Kolosov has asked Dynamo Minsk to solve the issue with the termination of his NHL contract. According to reports from his native Belarus, Kolosov wishes to return to the KHL and has been participating with training sessions with his former team over the summer. But to understand how Kolosov ended up back in Belarus after being assigned to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms earlier this year, let's take it back to when he first landed stateside. This is where we get into the entire story. Big props out to Siobhan Nolan, who breaks it down very elegantly. Alexei Kolosov followed shortly after the current Philadelphia Flyers goaltender Ivan Fedotov's surprise arrival in Philly, coming in around midnight after Dynamo Minsk confirmed he had left the club to pursue an NHL career on March 26th. The plan from the beginning seemed to be that Kolosov would start in the AHL with the Phantoms before hopefully working his way up to the top level. The 22-year-old played just 2 games with the Phantoms before rumors began circulating that Kolosov was feeling homesick and not adjusting well to North American hockey. This led to some believing that he would try to wriggle his way out of his newly signed ELC to stay in the KHL. Included is a tweet made by Jordan Hall from NBC Sports. This was from back in May. I'm hearing the Flyers are not aware of anything regarding Alexei Kolosov going back to the KHL. The belief is he was homesick and the hope is he'll be okay. He's under contract and he played in the KHL on loan this season. He had joined the Lehigh Valley Phantoms in April. Now, homesickness is an excuse, or I'm going to say excuse for lack of a better word. I'm not going to be too harsh with my language here. It's a legitimate source of discomfort for some NHL players and prospects, and we have seen it pop up over the past few years with certain guys. I'd say it's more common that players find a way to get over it than not, but it doesn't diminish the fact that homesickness does exist and it is real. But this entire story of Kolosov's homesickness got even crazier when Philadelphia Flyers prospect camp took place earlier in July, where, as this article says, Kolosov was nowhere to be seen. Several different theories were being thrown around to try and explain Kolosov's absence, ranging from him encountering visa issues to him straight up refusing to come back to the US for camp. But Belarusian journalist Ivan Bogan reported that the goaltender had every intention of flying back to the States on June 20th, but didn't seem to have set his alarm clock the night before. He was supposed to fly to Philadelphia on June 20th, but completely by accident, he overslept and missed the flight and remained in Belarus. With the Flyers' rookie camp and main camps approaching, speculation is growing on whether Kolosov will be there. While the Flyers front office has stated that they fully expect him to honor his contract and report to camp, if the reports from Belarus hold any truth, things could get complicated. To sign a rookie contract only to run home a couple of months later and refuse to return to Philly is, of course, the height of infantilism, Bogan added in his report. I heard that the goalie has already asked the Minx management to do everything to help him resolve the issue of terminating his NHL contract. Now it'll be interesting to see how the Minx team will resolve Kolosov's apparent request. And so, when you think about it like that, the guy signs his ELC, he's on contract with Philadelphia till 2026, he has a small cup of coffee with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms organization, and then goes back over to Belarus, misses his flight to head over to Philadelphia development camp, and now we are hearing reports out of Belarus saying that he wants out and he wants his contract newly signed with Philadelphia to be terminated? This is pretty ridiculous, and it's one of these situations where you think about the hoops and the hurdles that Philadelphia has gone through to get some of these goaltenders from overseas into their organization. Of course, the big one, the main story that everybody talks about is that Ivan Fedotov situation, but to see another goaltender who is following right in the coattails take this opportunity and throw it down the drain, if these reports are to be believed, that's kind of interesting. And I'm not going to go out there and say that Kolosov is a bad person or anything for going through any of this stuff. That's not what I'm trying to insinuate at all. But if these reports are true, that the guy is just so turned off and turned away by North American life that he wants that newly signed contract of his to get terminated right away, then you have to kind of think, okay, what exactly is going to happen here? Where do the Flyers go with this? And what does Dynamo Minsk have to do with this? Is it their ability to go out there and say, hey, Philly, your guy doesn't want to be there, terminate the contract and we'll get him back? Is that a possibility? Can Dynamo Minsk do that? Are they allowed to have a say? I remember that for the Ivan Fedotov stuff, Philadelphia was in cahoots a lot with the KHL team, and they were able to discuss what was going on there. Same thing happened with Matvei Mishkov, so Philly has had history in being able to negotiate and talk things out with these KHL clubs, but does it work the other way around? Can Dynamo Minsk go out there and say, hey, Philly, please terminate this contract, he doesn't want to be with you anymore? And furthermore, does it not kind of indicate where Kolosov's headspace is at, where his apparent instinct is to, instead of going to Philadelphia and saying that he doesn't want to play there, going over to his KHL team and being like, hey, please help me, I don't want to be here anymore? like, I don't know, something about that just rubs me the wrong way. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as to whether or not you feel the same way that I do about this entire Alexei Kolosov situation between the Philadelphia Flyers and the rest of their goaltending department. How apparently this guy wants out in a contract termination kind of fashion, and there may be some help from his KHL team to get that done. Do you believe these reports? Do you believe that he'll just show up randomly in regular camp in a few months here and everything will work itself out? What are your thoughts on this entire situation? Let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.